Welcome back, everyone, to a very special episode where you can only see two of us are here today, but we will be going over three separate movies, two of which came out in 2022. We have X and Pearl, and then the last one, Maxine, came out in 2024. As always, Raul is here.
Howdy, howdy.
And then I am here also. Unfortunately, Carlos and Ramon are still nowhere to be found. Well, Ramon hasn't been anywhere to be found, and Carlos is gone. He went camping with us, and that's what usually happens.
He got lost in the woods.
Yeah, we try to help him out. He don't want any s'mores, and that's not our fault. But as always, we're kind of gonna go over what shows we have been watching. Now, Raul, you said you've been watching a lot, or a good amount.
No, not a lot.
A good amount.
I've been watching things like
Okay.
I've been watching Tower of God, which is an anime, and then Rings of Power. I've been trying to watch that, and it's been interesting. It's I have you seen any of the Lord of the Rings movies or Hobbits?
I saw the
or
first
anything?
two. The first two Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Have you heard of the Rings of Power, the show, or seen any of it, or?
Mm-mm.
So it's kind of like a prequel, like many years ago, prior, like before the big war, that like before the rings. It's kind of like when the rings were created and stuff like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So now finally in the second season of the show, the rings exist, or some of the rings exist.
Mm.
So that's kind of the whole gist of the show, but it's so different than before. So in the first season, it came out at the exact same time than House of the Dragon was out. So they were both simultaneously going week to week, and it was such a contrast between the two. But it's still, a lot of people saw it. But then this season,
Not a lot
they
of
purposely
people.
didn't do it at the same time. It's just all the reviews kind of talk about how slow it is, especially compared to the Game of Thrones series, the House of the Dragon. So it's I
Hard to get
won't
into.
disagree, but it's, I don't know, it's Lord of the Rings. I never read the books, but I still love the world, and I like elves and magic and hobbits and all that stuff. So it's still interesting, but I don't feel as compelled to watch it. And then and I've been watching the Terminator anime. That is time
Oh,
finished.
there's an anime of that?
Yeah, it just came out last week, I think. Yeah,
Never-
it's also kind of like a. Well, I can't really say it's a prequel. I think it's in 1997. It's set in 1997, but
Okay.
in Japan.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
different.
Yeah, so but it's in English on Netflix. So
Okay.
That's-
I might watch
that's
that.
interesting.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's-
put it down because it's the one movie I have watched, right?
Oh, I guess you have. Yeah, with John Connor.
That I didn't get right for whatever reason, even though I watched the movie.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't really watched anything. I've been playing Baldur's Gate for the most part, so I restarted a whole new campaign, and I've been going a lot slower on this one. I think the other ones I kind of rushed to Act 2, so this time I'm still in Act 1 and just kind of working my way towards it. My TikTok honestly just started showing more Baldur's Gate, so it compelled me to re-download it and replay it, which I've been liking it a lot more this time around, where I'm actually playing understanding what's going on versus me just trying to go a little bit faster. The only show I have been watching is Teen Wolf, which is just kind of a show I watch to de-stress anyway.
The MTV show.
Yeah.
Oh.
Teen Wolf, it's on Hulu, It's an easy show to watch. I feel like that one and Pretty Little Liars I go back and forth with because they're just, if I'm stressed out, I just watch that and then I'm good. I don't really have to watch the show, watch anything. It's just playing in the background and I get to do whatever I need to do, and it's a little bit of a de-stressor. The horror films are a de-stressor.
Yeah. You know what? Another show that I have been watching that kind of reminded me, because it's so easy to casually watch, is Ink Masters. Have you heard of it?
Ink? Ink Masters?
Ink, yeah,
Ink? Like ink?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're writing ink?
yeah. It's pretty much it's a tattoo competition show
Oh, oh,
with
okay.
what's the name? Whatever Navarro. I forget his name, his first name.
Mm,
But yeah, and it has one of the guys from, I think he was in Miami Ink, from way
interesting.
back in the day, and then this other dude that's judges, and yeah, I saw it originally when it came out. I think it's in like season double digits now. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I saw the first two seasons, and then my sister started watching it, so then I started kind of watching it with
Rewatching
her.
it again, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, a guilty pleasure of mine always was watching Botched. I don't know why. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Oh,
it.
the tattoo one.
No, so botched is when they get plastic surgery done and
Oh
they
yes.
they go to them to do more plastic surgery typically, and then the two plastic surgeons basically say that no, like in fact you need to reverse what just happened because your health. I love watching that and then I used to be really into Pawn Stars too.
Oh yeah, I used to
Just
watch
to
that.
yeah, Pawn Stars, A Haunting and The Haunting, Ghost
No.
Hunters were oh man, I'm
Dude,
all for
I
it.
cannot take those shows because
Why?
they just seem so fake to me.
But it doesn't matter. It's just something to see.
Yeah, but I'm typically see here's the kind of weird part or the weird thing about me. So like I don't really in for real life believe in supernatural stuff, but supernatural movies are
You're
like the worst
into.
for me. Like I can't watch those by myself. Like the Conjuring movies, the Insidiouses,
I
like
can't
all
wait until you
those.
buy a doll and it's just haunted. And it starts
Uh,
walking around.
yes, because I buy so many dolls randomly.
Hey, you never know. What if you go to a garage sale, you see like Chucky, you think it's funny, you buy it, you put it in
Nope.
your room, and no.
You know. But so that's kind of the thing because like those are the scary type of movies for me. But then I don't for real believe in supernatural things. Like I don't believe in for real ghosts and the sort. So
I'm
I don't know.
fine watching those movies and shows unless it has to do with a kid or a doll. That's when I freak out.
Have seen Annabelle?
I think I saw the first portion of it. That's like the doll that ends up being when the twin sister passed away of the other kid, right? Or maybe it was the baby that passed away in the pool, and then she has the doll, and the doll. Maybe I'm thinking of a different one. This
I
might
think
be a
it's
different
thinking about a
one.
different one.
Yeah. Oh, am I thinking of Adeline? It was an
Is
A
that the
movie.
clinician one? I don't know
No,
what
I'm
you're talking about.
I'm thinking of the movie where the girl drowns in the pool. They move to a different house. The different
Is it in
house
Spanish?
has no,
Poltergeist?
no. The new house also has a pool. There's this girl that keeps coming in. She's blonde. Her name's Lilith. And she's flirting with the girl and flirting with the husband. The mom ends up being really crazy and going into the room of the doll. And she's
The
basically like
orphan?
taking. No, no, no. I'm gonna find it and send it to you. I forget what it was called.
I'm just gonna say random movies.
It was
Because you keep
no.
explaining.
I'm pretty sure maybe we were talking about the same movie. We just watched it differently.
Honestly, I don't remember what happened in the first Annabelle because there's been like two or three.
I don't remember my movie. I don't remember the name of this one. It'll come to me in the middle of the episode and then I'll scream it out loud.
Okay.
I don't yeah. But the doll
I
the
might have.
doll
I
ones
might have
freak me
just.
out.
Is it Megan? Because I haven't seen Megan.
Oh, maybe it was Megan. Maybe it was Megan.
It's the blonde doll that kind of looks realistic.
No, not Megan.
Okay, then I don't know.
No, she was a brunette doll. I don't. It'll come to me.
In the pool or in a well? Because you might
A
be thinking
gr-
about the ring.
No, not the ring. For sure, not the ring.
Okay, then I don't know.
I'm pretty sure the girl was like a twin with a boy, and then they had an older daughter, and then the twin girl drowned in the pool. No?
I have no idea.
Alright, I'll have to find it.
I don't think I've seen whatever the movie you're talking about.
Alright.
And then you're gonna say it. Then I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I have seen that.
I've actually seen it 3 times. It was a great movie. By this director, and these were the actors in it.
Exactly.
No,
That's typically how it goes.
I do get creeped out by doll movies, though, and I think it's back in Poland. My room was just filled with porcelain dolls. My mom used to collect them, so for me, whenever I see those types of movies, it just reminds me of back in the day when I just had all of these dolls staring at me, and I can't do those. I enjoy them, but those are the ones where I'm terrified for the next few nights.
You should watch
Megan?
Puppet Master. It's old. I think it's a 90s movie.
And it's about...
And like
Pinocchio?
Dummies and a bunch of killing with lots of scary dummies.
But I prefer to watch doll horrors over anything with monkeys.
So you would rather watch a doll horror than the Kingdom of the Apes?
Exactly.
Okay.
Less scary. Less terrifying.
Okay.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Monkeys and apes really get to me. They're so humanoid, I can't...
What about Rampage? Have you seen that one? With The Rock?
Just get to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of monkey movies.
So the 3 movies we did watch, though, technically classified horrors, right? Typical slasher, horror, thriller films, right? So there were two different ways to watch these, and I want to know what order you watched it in, because I think mine was different than yours.
So, I'm a big believer in watching things kind of the way that they came out, because in my mind, that's kind of the way that they wanted us to see it. So that's the way that I saw it. So I saw X, then Pearl, then Maxine.
Okay. So I did Pearl, X, and then Maxine.
Oh, that's different. Because by the time that you got to X, like, you kind of already know
about
everything.
Pearl.
Yeah. Oh.
So I had my own thoughts going into X and knowing who Pearl was when she was mentioned. Yeah.
Interesting. Hey, so what was your thought about the husband when you saw X? Because I went straight into the husband.
Yeah, so watching Pearl ends with just the husband just coming home and asking what happened, and then I'm watching X and the husband is who you see at first. And when I ended Pearl, I thought she would have killed her husband. But then in
because
X,
of the way that it ends.
But then in X...
So first we should probably explain. So X is the first one that came out, and then Pearl is a prequel to X, and then it was Maxine, which is pretty much a sequel to X.
Well, yeah, all of the movies kind of intertwine.
Oh, yeah.
X and Pearl were filmed 6 months apart from each other, so
I didn't know that.
So X came out March 18th, and then Pearl came out September 16th. So they basically just shot that one, or shot X, and then they shot Pearl right away. And then they waited about a year before they started shooting Maxine.
Did you know anything about these movies before, like, recently, before I even brought it up?
No. Which, again, Raul's favorite show, so everything that happened in there, this is what he recommended for us to watch.
So
all parts of it.
So I didn't know about X because I saw, like, trailers and stuff before it came out. And then, like, I knew about the cast because out of... Pearl probably has the least known cast out of the 3 movies. So X came out. It has Brittany Snow. It has Kid Cudi. It has Jenna Ortega. It has what's the main characters? The main actress.
Mia Goth.
Yeah, it has Mia Goth, who's in all 3 movies. So it's definitely the most well known. And I thought I kind of went into it with mixed ideas of what it was going to be, because at first I thought I was like, oh, it's going to be like a movie with probably a lot of sex in it. So then I heard people watch it, and then from what I was hearing, I was like, oh, maybe there's really not as much,
and you were disappointed.
Like, yeah, maybe just like a lot more PG-13 than I thought it was going to be. And then nope, it's still very, very rated R.
Very raunchy, yeah.
Yeah, so I was almost kind of turned back into surprised with that movie.
Yeah, I think X, when you get into it, even with me watching X second, I expected what it was going to be about. I will say Pearl was probably the most PG of them.
Yeah.
There were more killings, more graphic killings-ish.
Yeah.
Kind of, but
Yeah.
it was the most PG out of all of them. There wasn't really anything odd, and they kind of skipped over those scenes almost, it felt like. Versus with X, it was very much, well, they were filming it, so obviously you see more of that. But then with Maxine, I feel like they also brought it back. It was just that first part of it, and then it didn't really.
So what did you think of Mia Goth's progression? Because Mia Goth played both Maxine and Pearl. So even in X, when you have really old Pearl, it was still Mia Goth apparently. Like I didn't realize
Could
that
not tell,
until the
yeah.
credits. Yeah. So that was actually pretty interesting to see. What did you think of kind of her progression playing Pearl in Pearl, and then Pearl in X, and then Maxine in X, and then Maxine in Maxine?
You you saw it, honestly, it was like a mirror with both of them, which I know they say it a lot of times, like they're supposed to be mirror images of themselves, but they truly were. You have Pearl, who wanted to be just as known as Maxine does, but the issue with Pearl was she never left home, and instead she mass murdered basically everyone that she ever knew. Versus Maxine, who did leave home, and instead of her killing the people, it was her father that ended up killing people on behalf of her to bring her back. So I felt like that was a mirror in itself, where maybe if Pearl had left, would her mom be the one that was doing that? Because obviously her dad was unable to. But would her mom have taken over that role? And the thing that kept popping up, or in my head, the moment I saw it in Maxine, was when Maxine's father started burning. It reminded me of the scene of Pearl where her mother started burning. And it was like a perfect mirror, like mom and dad, both of them are burning though.
No, yeah, and in a way, it's a mirror. I think is a good kind of analogy to use, because they're similar, but they're not the same. In some ways, they're kind of opposites, because, like Pearl, she definitely had issues. She was disturbed, and it kind of progressed and got worse and worse. And she did kind of have this dream of being a dancer, but she would. in that one scene when she was actually dancing, it was like, oh, she's not good. And then where Maxine, I don't know, from everyone's reaction to her, it seemed like she did have talent, and kind of had the X factor that Pearl didn't really have. And then it was ironic to see in Maxine that she was blonde, specifically because Pearl had such a thing against blondes because of what happened with their sister-in-law and Pearl. So it's kind of interesting to talk about all three movies at the same time, because they kind of all tie in together. Because I feel like it's one long story between that starts with Pearl and ends with Maxine, and kind of switches during X, which is kind of the midpoint between the two. So
it's like a karmic cycle, which I think people call it, where it's a similar person is then put into like a different generation, and they have a completely different outlook in their life. With the blonde too, it was she turned blonde and then she got famous. So then we have to think, okay, well, if Pearl was blonde, she would have probably made that audition. But then we have to take into account timelines. I mean, you never know. But remember, dancing back then was different too.
Yeah.
You have the flapper girls, which nowadays are kind of like, okay, like they're, but with World War, was it 2 back then? One. So
yeah, because it was in, I think, 1918 that the first one was based on.
So you have World War One, which then it looks like they're looking for more of the Aryan race. So they are looking for the blonde with the blue eyes, versus LA back in whatever setting it was set in. I don't think they really care, but her becoming blonde, I think that was a very big jump to her career. And that there was that last scene of her walking down the carpet, and I could have sworn it was Sydney Sweeney. It wasn't her, with her hair curled that way. She looked almost identical to her. But seeing that part of it, and she still killed her dad, spoiler I guess, just like Pearl killed her family. But I think that's the only person that Maxine killed, wasn't it?
No, she killed Pearl too.
She didn't. Pearl shot and she killed herself.
No, because she ran over her because she was still
Oh, you're
alive.
right. She ran over her head.
Yeah.
You're so right. So
Yeah,
she
but
killed.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's the only one that she killed.
a lot of her fights
Wait,
were.
wait. How how did Pro's husband die?
He had a heart attack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. hmm Which
Oh
again,
my
how
god.
did he survive? Did he just throw everyone out and bury them for Pearl to be able
Oh,
to
at
live
the end
out
of
her
Pearl?
life? Yeah, because then when I went into X, I was thinking maybe they're just renting out houses for Pearl to just be able to kill people.
Well, I watching X first, and especially considering that they had somebody in the basement already.
hmm
When Jenna Ortega was down there,
hmm
and then the fact that they also had like a car in the lake or river or whatever that was already.
It
So
wasn't
so
the same car that she threw in there because that car that she threw in there from the projector dude was a completely different car.
well, yeah, it was like a Model T.
hmm
That one, and then the one in X, I think it was like a Beetle or something like that.
hmm
So it's definitely it's not the same car, but it was that kind of said that like okay they do this periodically, and then the way that the husband was acting,
hmm
and kind of talking about the this always happens. You bohemians always come here, and tempt my pearl and all this stuff. So it's definitely something that
And
happens
he just
periodically
accepted
all
it.
the time. Yeah, and then so he just gets jealous and kills them, and then Pearl's inflicted with her desires.
See, I thought it was the opposite. I thought this was the only way of his survival. Because he came in, she had already killed so many people, so in order for him to be okay with Pearl, he just had to say, okay, I'm so sorry this happened, let me bury all of the bodies, and then whenever there's an issue, he just follows up, but that's why he never wanted to sleep with her. Because that was the whole issue between X. He didn't really want to sleep with her, he kept saying it was his heart, until finally that last scene that he did. But the whole time he was telling her, like, it's been so many years, my heart can't take it, I don't want to touch you, just, like, sit down.
No, well, considering that I saw X first, I totally saw it as if he is into her, but just for health reasons he couldn't do it.
Mm,
So that's how I took it, and then just the fact that she was like super extra horny all the time, I suppose. That's the way that I
poor
took it.
guy.
Yeah, so well, poor her too, in no way, I guess. Uh, but but then not poor her because she did a lot of fucked up shit.
Yeah. But he killed just as many people as she did, especially with that group.
Oh yeah, well, he killed Kid Cudi. So RJ was Pearl. Brittany Snow
She put
was
so
Pearl.
Pearl pushed her into the
Yeah,
yeah, but didn't he kill Lorraine Jenny Ortega? Lorraine. I think he did with the
that.
gun. He shot her.
No, he hammered her hand. Oh yeah, yep.
I
When
think
she
when
was
she was
running
running
out.
out, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because she was blaming Maxine for
For what had
making her do
happened.
those things,
hmm
and then as she was running out.
Which again, the difference between Pearl and Maxine is Maxine wanted to help her,
Mm-hmm.
but her running out. That I mean, Maxine didn't want her to run out, but when she did, there wasn't much that she could do about it at that point.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to kind of see the people around each one because they all died for Pearl and Maxine because
hmm
in Pearl she's the one that killed everyone. She killed her dad, she killed her mom, she killed her sister-in-law, she killed the projector dude, and then so she was pretty much just alone with her husband. And then in X, pretty much the whole crew that Maxine went there with was dead. And then even in Maxine, her friends died too, plus her dad, even the detective people even
Yeah.
died.
Except the difference is Maxine was able to make it into her being this heroine almost, where she did get that fame versus Pearl, she did it and she had to hide what she did.
Yeah, but it also in a way because of what Pearl did, kind of led to Maxine getting to where that was. So kind of without Pearl, Maxine wouldn't have gotten there.
It's interesting with how you watched it and how I did because I feel like we have slightly different
Which of
opinions
you?
on things
Yeah.
because of how our storyline goes. Because for me, it was, we have Pearl. She wants to be a dancer. Her mom's not letting her. She has to take care of her dad. Her dad obviously can't do much. He's pretty much wheelchair bound. Even just the scenes of her in the bathroom with him, though, were very odd. Where she didn't care that he was just there and she was naked and bathing. And talking to him was very odd. But then you see her getting more sexual, I guess, in a way where she sees the scarecrow and then she's like making out with the scarecrow out of nowhere. Like, yeah, and you so you see that, and then you see that she wants more. Her mom is still keeping her from it. She finally goes back to town. She sees the projector dude. She comes back, and then her mom is just set on fire. And I think that's what trickled down the effects of her saying, okay, well, I killed my mom. There's nothing else I can do. My dad knows about this. So then we have her basically killing her dad, but she does it almost out of love, right? With him. Then you have the dude that's coming, the projector dude that comes in, and she tells him, oh, it's just my dog in the basement. And then he tells her she's being weird and creepy because she just wants all of these things with him, so then she kills him. And then you have the sister-in-law that she ends up killing because she got the part and she didn't with dancing, but we saw her dance moves and they were not that good.
Mitzi, oh God, yeah, they were bad.
So we...
And the funny thing too, I'm not sure, I don't know if you're aware of this. So the projectionist, that actor is going to be Superman.
Really?
In the new Superman, yeah, that's the guy that's going to be Superman.
Honestly, I can see it. He has the facial shape for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I totally saw it, and at first I was like I wasn't sure, and I was like, that is David Cornsweet. Yeah.
Cornsweet, yeah, he looks good. He looks like a good Superman, honestly.
I'm just wondering if he's going to be able to...
thinking about what he was wearing too. Like he looks like he would fit it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he'll make a good Superman. I'm just wondering if he's going to be a good Clark Kent. Because I think that's kind of the thing that's been lacking. Like in Henry Cavill is a great Superman, not a great Clark Kent. But then if you go all the way to Christopher Reeve, like I think that's the thing about him, that he was a great Clark Kent. Because you believe the clumsiness, you believe like this is why people don't recognize Clark Kent from Superman, is because he has glasses and just they act so different. They have such a different personality.
Persona, yeah.
Yeah. That they could never imagine Clark Kent being Superman. But yeah, so I'm interested to see how he does. So this bohemian dude that watches porn movies from Europe, that imports them, that's illegal apparently, which is crazy to think about.
Insane.
Oh,
yeah.
What did you think about that? The silence porn movie.
The fact that he showed it to her, he was like, "Oh, this is a new movie that I only got in Europe or whatever," and then he plays it for her. That's so awkward. I feel like any other person would be like, "Okay," but I guess I don't know Pearl, right? She was into it. She was like, get me on that screen. I want to be on that screen no matter what I do. So it was interesting for her to see it, and then Maxine be the person to be like, yeah, I was on the screen, and I do those things.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously not in silent movies, but...
Right.
Yeah, but I also kind of found it interesting to kind of see the impact that the time period had, and how they were completely like invested in it with each one of the movies, because the Pearl was in the 19-teens, 1918, during the Spanish flu, during World War One, and that whole thing was kind of going around. With
them wearing the mask too, it reminded me of COVID, to be honest.
I know.
She was going in town,
oh
she
God.
had the mask on, she wasn't taking it off unless she wasn't around people, and then she was like reading her little pamphlet, and her mom kept saying like, oh, I don't want to bring more disease into this, and I almost had a second like recheck what era I was in, because I was just imagining that that's the era we were just in, right? Put on your mask so you don't get anyone else sick.
Oh God, yeah. No, and what probably happened with the dad is he probably got polio too. That's probably why he was like that, because during that time, polio was a thing. It was before the.
Remember, we have our shots.
Yeah. to show we're immigrants. But yeah. So it's, you had that. Then you had the whole Spanish flu, World War One. So not a lot of men around, and then just the way that they danced and the whole patriotism stuff, and then just the fact that her mom was German, and that not a lot of people were fond of Germans. and the fact that they had no more like field hands because they were probably all out at the war with her husband. So it was kind of interesting seeing that, and then all of a sudden. In X, which is the first one that I saw, was in the 70s, trying to do like these porns, but the way that RJ was kind of recording everything, it was kind of like he was trying to put an artistic touch to pornography, and just the fact that like how they did it, I just pictured the music, the bow chicka bow bow music, kind of like in the background in my mind, I guess, at least, and then it jumps to the 80s in Maxine. So it and the way that they shot everything, it especially like the opening credits and stuff like that, it was totally, this is the time period that this movie's in. So it was interesting to see that part of it.
Yeah, I think they did a good job at separating the time periods, especially with Pearl to X. At least when I watched Pearl and then I watched X, I knew it was a completely different time period.
Yeah.
Just based on what they were doing. And then Maxine obviously was a little bit more kind of out there, I guess. I don't know what the best word to say, but it was more technology based versus some of the other ones. And I know we're touching a lot on X and Pearl, but I feel like you need to understand X and Pearl to understand Maxine. Maxine does. I feel like the other two films could stand alone, but Maxine, I don't think it can unless you have the backing of the other two. Maxine is very much the sequel. I feel like even with both, even if you just watched Pearl and then you watched Maxine, I think it would make more. It wouldn't make sense, but I feel like Maxine, you need to watch another movie with it to understand it. So, Pearl being how it was, and I know you said the thing about the Germans, and the one thing that I took note of is when she wanted to go to the newspaper to kind of read what was going on, she was like, I don't want to hear more about Germans dying. And I go, oh, so what side of the war are we on right now?
I know. I was kind of wondering that too.
Yeah, it got me thinking, which I guess now gets me thinking too, what did the projectioner, what was he doing to where he didn't have to go to war? Because the only way that they didn't have to go to war is if they had something, going on. So I wonder how he got out of it.
I don't know. Because
he seemed very able-bodied, so it's surprising to see that he was one of the only ones there. And he did show interest in Pearl, which I think in a better world, Pearl would have maybe been a little bit more like Maxine, to where she wouldn't have been as crazy towards him and wouldn't have gone to him right after she killed her mom, and instead just spent time with him, and maybe she would have been that star that she always wanted to be and left home. But I think she was scared to leave home a little bit, so she took him back home. And then happened.
I don't think that they're... I think the way that she was brought up definitely impacted how she was, because I feel like that she was kind of like secluded and super, like, I feel her parents were probably pretty conservative with her, so in a way that kind of helped her like act out some. But I think either way, whatever period that she was in, I think she still would have had a lot of those issues. They might have just manifested differently, or maybe she wouldn't have gone and killed everyone.
Like Maxine?
Yeah.
They're the same person almost. It's just because I feel like because of the time period, what happened was different between the two.
No, but the thing is, she didn't really have any remorse about the mom. Like, the only murder that she kind of regretted was her dad. Like, that's the only one that she felt bad about. Because when she was talking to Mixie, I forgot her name, Mitzi.
Oh, Mitzi.
Yeah, the sister-in-law. When she was pretending that was her husband, like, she even said that maybe she shouldn't have done that one. But like, she is aware that there's something wrong with her, and I feel like she kind of fantasized about leaving, but then kind of getting rid of those people so that she could leave. And I don't know. I don't feel that Maxine would have done... Well, actually, maybe, because she killed her dad.
It's a different time period, though, because back in the day, if you said, I don't want any kids, as a woman, it would have been like, how dare you not want to have kids? Versus now, it's kind of like, I don't want to have kids. They're like, great. anyways, what's for dinner? Like, what do you want to do? Type of
Yeah.
thing. And I think Maxine grew up more in that type of era versus
Yeah.
the you need to be a standard household. See,
Yeah.
it's tricky. I wish you watched it the way that I did because I feel like you would have seen the
The
little
progression. Yeah.
tidbit, yeah. Which I will say with X, one thing that did make me think was she constantly had on the TV her or Maxine's
I
father
know.
on the TV. I almost wonder if she knew who Maxine technically was because he showed pictures of Maxine
Yeah, I
during his
know.
sermons and she always had it on TV.
And the other thing that I'm kind of wondering is like, why Maxine never changed her name? Like, if she ran away, like,
Why not
was she
change your
really just
name?
not really running away? She just changed her name to what, Maxine Minx as a
I
stage
mean,
name, but
Maxine with three X's, Minx. It's a great stage name, honestly.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's pretty good. I just kind of wonder because in Maxine, the dad hired a detective to find her. So that makes me think that they couldn't find her, but she never changed her name. But it's also the '80s, so it's not like
Different time
you could go
period.
online to look her up, I guess. But
Because remember, she didn't really have a I mean, they didn't have cell phones, so she was calling off of payphones on the street. So you don't
oh
have
yeah,
anything registered to your name. The only thing she would have registered under her name is her
the movies.
porn name, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
and at that point, like, what data's going to search up? Well, I mean, you know what? I don't know. He was a little crazy. So maybe he did.
No,
But
no, because in the Peep Show, he went to the Peep
he
Show
did,
to
yeah.
watch her.
But that was her, and wasn't that Halsey too? That was in in the movie. I think it was
Oh
Halsey.
yeah. It was
Yeah,
Halsey.
yeah, Halsey was the one that he went to the Peep Show for Halsey though. I don't think it was her because Halsey was wearing the wig.
Oh, I thought it was Max. Oh, you know what? You're right. It
Yeah,
was
it was
Halsey.
Halsey. So he watched her friends, and he was almost stalking her friends and killing them one by
Yeah.
one. But she didn't speak up or say a word about anything. I think she was so driven to her own success that she just said, "Screw it! Like I don't even care. I'm not killing these people. They're not my issue. They're not my problem.
I
I'm just
know.
gonna do this movie."
I know.
I get it though. I get it. I get it. If you've come from that murder scene that she came from with everyone she knew being killed and then driving away from it and never being questioned about it, I think I would also be like, I don't know I don't know.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to the one note that I wrote about like the whole trilogy. I wrote down one note because I wanted to make sure that we talked about it, and I wrote Coke Goose.
Yes, and the goose
Yeah.
that she killed first and then fed it to the alligator, right? Pearl,
Oh
right?
yeah, I forgot about that. Like I didn't even
Yeah.
put it together. But yeah,
Oh,
in the beginning of Maxine, because I thought it was like such a thing. It was like, okay, it's the '80s. Yes, there's probably a lot of coke being done.
oh,
But
see,
yeah, but even in X, like Maxine was already doing coke,
mm-hmm.
and then in the beginning of Maxine, there was like a whole goose, like a ceramic goose with like a ton of it there,
I am
just
so
in the strip
glad
club
you
or
brought
whatever.
this up because I forgot about it and I didn't put it in my notes and I did clock that in because the first few scenes of Pearl, she kills the
Yeah,
goose with the rake or whatever,
pitchfork.
and then she feeds it to the alligator, and then the
Yeah,
first scene or about the first scene in Maxine, she's opening the goose and she's using coke, which is
yeah.
like that's a perfect way to showcase the two of them. She is more, or I guess Pearl is way more, what's the word for it, like she was okay with killing, meanwhile Maxine, instead of doing it, she's like, I'm just gonna take some coke.
Yeah.
A
Oh
little bit
yeah,
more
but
chill.
yeah, and it's because I think the goose is the first thing that dies
In
in
Pearl.
chronological order. Because in Pearl, nothing else had died yet until
The
Pearl
goose.
killed the goose with the pitchfork, and you really don't know that she's going to do that because she's talking all nice to all the animals,
And she's
and then
singing, she's dancing, and then she just
yeah, and she's like, "Hey, Mr. Goose," and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, holy goose.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm fine with people being killed, but animals being killed, that's my thing too.
And it was interesting too because when she's having that discussion with Mitzi, I think she even brought up the fact that she started by killing animals,
Mm-hmm.
and then finally when she
Well,
started
the egg
killing,
from our alligator too. She
I
ended up.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
I thought
I
that she
thought she was
just
going to raise it. She was going to like specifically, like make sure
yeah
it incubates correctly and then raise it to
yeah
be her own. But no, just.
yeah yeah that was really weird.
Hmm.
I don't know. I didn't know what to. I will say that's the one thing about all three movies is that they don't necessarily follow what you expect to
Mm-mm.
happen because it's so weird because well oftentimes you don't really have a lot of female kind of like serial killers or killers in movies and especially slashers. So especially me, I started with X. So like I didn't know if the husband or the old lady was the weird one, and then I didn't know if there was going to be anything supernatural either. So you just had creepy old people. I even remember
Hmm.
saying, "Oh, like there's creepy old people," um, and then it was just weird because there was like a lot of sex in X,
Hmm.
especially like earlier on. So it was weird because my sister was around, and then I had to lower the volume. I was like, "Oh, this is
You're like
weird."
so
It
sorry.
was
I
like,
had to put
"It's Brittany
headphones in
Murphy."
too. I was like, no,
Yeah,
nothing's going on.
yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize how much there was going to be, and then
Hmm.
especially considering the cast because you with well-known cast you never know if there's going to be like nudity or if it's going to be just like back shots or whatever they're going to have, but it was full on kind of everything with everyone.
Loud.
Yeah,
Hmm.
except for Jenna Ortega. She was in underwear, but it was a full
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, like, and it was definitely loud, and I was like, oh, this is awkward.
Hmm.
um but I don't know, like I out of everyone I think I felt the worst about Kid Cudi's death out of all
He
of them.
truly was trying to help him, and then just out of nowhere, he just shot him.
Yeah, I in the whole series, besides when Pearl was dancing, the only other time that I laughed was when Pearl shot the shotgun. I legit laughed
Oh,
out
yeah.
loud.
She fell
It
back
next,
so much.
I know, like yeah, she shot and then like Maxine like ducked or whatever, and she just
Hmm.
flew.
Hmm.
I laughed out loud, and that's probably the only time that I like legit laughed out loud.
Yeah, they're even with some horrors, I feel like there are little things that you're just kind of you chuckle, but this one not so much.
Oh,
Not that
I
it was
know.
bad or anything. It was just more like what is gonna happen next? Because you truly, like you said, you have no idea. Whatever you thought was going to happen, it was the opposite of that.
Yeah, and there were so many things that were disturbing too, though. Because
Hmm.
so I saw X first,
Hmm.
so like old Pearl was definitely not something that I wanted to see in other ways that I saw old Pearl,
Hmm.
especially with, like the way that she was obsessing over Maxine, and all that stuff, and it was just fucking it was weird, and then
But
and
then it
then
makes sense because when I watched Pearl, I got it because she looked exactly like her, except I think she had more freckles on her face.
yeah,
Versus I think Pearl had no
well
freckles
yeah, all
and
the
then
makeup
Maxine
probably,
did, yeah.
yeah.
But so for me watching Pearl first and then going to X, I thought that the husband Howard was just cleanup crew because that's what it seemed
Mm,
like. So with
yeah, I
him
could see
killing
that.
people, that's when where I kind of was like, "Oh, whoa, hold on. Are they like tag teaming this at this point? This is different." Because I thought he just cleans everything up after I saw the first movie and him still being alive in the second movie. I
Yeah.
thought he's just the person that cleans up whoever she kills.
Yeah, yeah, and since I started with X, I thought like, okay, there it's kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the whole family, that they're all kind of like just killing people and kind of going
Left and
around hanging
right.
people in the basements. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I thought it was kind of both of them, but it was more like he was doing it for Pearl, and Pearl was the kind of like the crazy one that was
Hmm.
murderous and kind of going off her urges and stuff like that. And then it was interesting to kind of see how she was obsessing over Maxine, but then with Brittany Murphy or Brittany Snow, she just like she didn't like blondes, so she was
Hmm.
super against her, and because she even hit her when Brittany Snow was trying to help her because she was
Hmm.
naked
Hmm.
and like right in
And
front of
she
the
was
pond or
giving her
whatever.
like a little blanket around her and trying to like
Yeah,
help her out, but yeah. And then she pushed her into the alligator.
Yeah, I know, and I was expecting that death, but I wasn't in also in another way. But yeah, the one that was probably the most fucked up about all those was probably RJ.
Hmm.
But and the only one that I wasn't expecting as much was probably the Jenna Ortega. But
Yeah,
in
it
a way,
looked
you
like
kind of
she
do.
could have. You did, but she could have survived if she just stuck with Maxine. I feel like she would have been okay.
Yeah,
But you kind of expect it at that point because you see her attitude towards her, and you kind of think, okay, yeah, she's probably gonna do something stupid, and then Maxine is gonna be the only one that runs out of it. But
yeah.
from Maxine though, I will say we had one scene that both of us were getting a
Oh
little
my
squirmy.
god, dude! I even texted you when I saw it because
Hmm.
you saw it like a day before I did,
Hmm.
and then you text me.
I said they're both crazy. That was the
Yeah,
scene that I saw where I was like, they're both crazy. I didn't even give
yeah.
Maxine a chance. The moment I saw that alley scene, I go, they're both crazy.
Uh, and for those that for some reason are still listening and haven't seen the movie, there's a scene where somebody in an alley is trying to either mug her or something, but they
Hmm.
pull out like a knife on Maxine, but she carries a gun, so she points at him, has him strip, and then has him lay on his stomach, and then she just like stomps on his balls, and like you
With her
see.
heel.
Yeah, and you just see it happen, and like I was not ready for this. Like I wasn't
Hmm.
emotionally ready, I wasn't spiritually ready, I wasn't physically ready, and then all of a sudden it happens, and then I text Sylvia right away. I was like, "What the hell, man, Sylvia? Like, why didn't you warn me?
I did though. That
You
was the
didn't.
thing.
No,
Your
you,
response to me was, "Is it good crazy or bad crazy?" And I go, "Crazy, crazy."
yeah, but
That
I
was my
didn't
way of warning
know.
you. I don't want to spoil it. You had to like feel the emotion.
Oh, I felt it. I still feel it.
I felt it too, and I'm not even a man, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like I got the goosebumps. I had to like back away for a sec. It was, like they show it too. That was the thing.
Okay, for you as a non-ball haver, um,
Mhm.
what scene is more gruesome? That scene in the alley, or Pearl's head being smashed by the car?
No, that scene in the alley. Her getting
Okay.
smashed with the car, I was just kind of like, she kind of
Still,
deserved it also in a sense. Remember, I watched Pearl first, so to me, I was like, good riddance. Get her out of
okay. Oh
here.
yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
I guess the only other gruesome scene was with oh, what was his name? He was the one that was in charge of directing everything.
Oh, the producer guy,
Yeah, him
the
when his
boyfriend.
eyeball like fell out. I think that was the gruesome one for me compared to the
Oh
other
yeah.
ones.
Just the fact that like you saw the nail sticking up,
Hmm.
too, and
And then
then
he's
yeah,
oh.
he's barefoot, and then he's, like I was like, oh no, like I thought that they were gonna do that thing where they like make you anticipate it happen, and then it doesn't
And
happen,
it
and then
doesn't, but it
yeah, and
did.
then all of a sudden they
Yeah.
do something else.
Oh.
No, but then it happens like oh,
Hmm.
but yeah,
So out of the three, though, now I have to ask you, which one did you like the best or
of the
enjoy
three.
the most?
Okay, so the second one was definitely more of the slasher, but it was so disturbing too, in a lot of ways. And then in Pearl, it was probably the best story because you kind of saw her progression getting crazier and crazier.
Hmm.
But in the third one, there was a lot of things that they did that I liked, and the cast was stacked in
Hmm.
Maxine. You had Kevin Bacon, you had the two detectives that I don't remember their names, and then you had Mia Goth, you had Halsey, you
Hmm.
had Giancarlo Esposito as her agent that's apparently complicit in murder as well, and then you had her dad. Well, I don't know who her dad was, but so it was kind of cool seeing some of the scenes that she ran through but I that's hard. I think the best movie is Pearl.
Okay.
I think
I
Pearl's
get
like the
that.
best actual like movie. I think X is more of your traditional like slasher.
Hmm.
And then Maxine is you have to watch. I think in order to see Maxine, you have to watch X.
The other ones, yeah.
Yeah, but I there was so yeah, I wouldn't say Maxine, but I think Maxine is a good payoff to the other two. But I guess I'll say Pearl's probably the best actual like movie in the three.
I feel like I'm opposite of you. I enjoyed Maxine the most compared to the other two. And I think maybe it was because of the payoff, because I knew what was going on. I think that's why I enjoyed it more, because I was more in tune with the storyline. And then I was seeing those little things, like you mentioned the goose and then the burning of her dad. Those things, it was kind of making sense to me, which the payoff was worth it to me at that point. But I will say Pearl was definitely my second favorite. I think the progression of her craziness, like you said, was... She did an amazing job. The actress herself, Mia, amazing job at playing both characters, because they are complete opposites but exactly the same at the same time. She did an amazing job. And seeing Pearl by itself, just Pearl, and then Maxine by itself is just Maxine, those two characters completely different, but then when you have the crossover of X, you can kind of see where they intertwine, and I think she did a really good job with that.
Yeah, and it all three of them are so different though. So I think it's more also on like your taste, like what type of movie you like more. Because for horror fans and fans of like slashers, X is probably going to be their favorite one, because it has all the tropes of slashers. And then yeah, Pearl, which is more of your, I guess, traditional kind of like horror movie where
a little bit of a psychological thriller, I feel like, too.
Yeah. And then in Maxine, you kind of have more of your definitely 80s movie, but definitely more of a like detective story.
Investigator, yeah.
Yeah. So and I kind of like the fact that they were showing clips of the Night Stalker at the same time too, kind of to go along with it. But then and kind of showing how 80s like Hollywood was at the time, and then also kind of some of the nostalgia, because they kind of also paralleled what happened like in Psycho, because they showed the Bates Motel, and I think that one building that she ran out of, it really looked like the Back to the Future
at the last
building.
Scene, or
when she was running away from Kevin Bacon. And then she went through some building, and then she walked out of a building that kind of looked like it might have been that clock tower into like a plaza thing. That kind of looked like Back to the Future, but I don't know if it was other sets. And I just
honestly maybe I haven't watched Back into the Future in a while, so my memory is not hitting me maybe as good, but I do know when she was like driving through the movie sets, Maxine herself, I like how she kind of had that PTSD of seeing or seeing Pearl in the window of the house in the back.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, because that was after the tape was already put there, which kind of also makes you wonder how they got the tape, because it was all like in real. And the police should have had it from the 70s, but obviously they somehow got
Which I'm surprised, did the police not watch it and not follow up with her, or is that why she became blonde? But then again, she never changed her name, or was like the connection there, because I feel like any detective would have seen the video and then gone to her and been like, hey Maxine, can you explain to us why all of these people are dead and you're the only one alive?
Or maybe they did see it, but they just didn't know who she was.
True. She wasn't a big star at that point. But then when she was a big star, you feel like they would follow up. But I guess maybe those investigators were no longer investigating and just kind of got lost.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, because they were like they were in Texas, in X, so they were like in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and then so by the time that they got to Maxine, she was in Hollywood, and she was making porn, but back in the 80s, it's not like you could go online and stream it. So they actually had like videos in video stores. So maybe just none of them watched any of her work. So they didn't really know who she was or anything like that.
Until she started doing the Puritan, and then things started to pick up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. That's the only time that she would have gotten more exposure because I'm sure at that time really only some
It
people
was
saw.
definitely hard. And I feel like back in the day, they didn't treat it as like, oh, you're part of Hollywood, you get all of this money. It's still more like a job, I think, at that point versus what it is now.
Well, yeah, and the porn industry was different. The adult industry was different back then, because now I think it's probably changed a lot, especially now
Hmm.
that like adult stars kind of have more power because they could either be like they could be on OnlyFans or they could actually go and make like movies and stuff like that with like studios. But I feel like the studios don't have as much power anymore because people can just go on
I do
OnlyFans.
like how that producer gave her the chance, though. She was like, this is what you typically do, but you
Hmm.
seem like you're star quality. Let me get you on this movie, but I need you to watch Haley Seinfeld at that point. I need you to watch her so you know how you're supposed to act. She's going to be like the younger girl or whatever it was. But then, unfortunately, we see Haley Seinfeld being chopped into pieces, but
Wait,
she
that's
was
her
in the
name?
suitcase. Yeah, Haley Seinfeld? Is it not?
Yeah, is
Well,
that her
no.
name?
Her real name. Her real name, not the name in the movie. I
Yeah,
forget what her name in the movie was.
she's a Paris girl, isn't she? The Emily in Paris girl.
Yes, yeah. Wait.
Is that her name?
No. She's not. Haley Seinfeld is from Pitch Perfect, like Brittany Snow was. The
That
girl that
wasn't.
you're thinking
No,
of
that
is.
wasn't Haley Steinfeld though.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
It was absolutely Haley Seinfeld.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
Because I love Haley Steinfeld.
who, who was it then?
It's
Oh,
the girl
Lily
from
Collins. You're so right.
yeah, yeah. See,
You're
ha!
so right.
I
You're
knew it
so
was
right.
right.
That was Lily
Yeah,
Collins. They look the same. Listen,
it was the
I can't
eyebrows.
tell faces apart that well, so
Well,
there's that.
I really liked Haley Steinfeld because like Pitch Perfect, and then she's also Kate Bishop in the MCU. So
Man, you would have loved this movie if it was her then. You would have had Brittany Snow, and then you would have had
I
her.
know, yeah,
Mm.
but yeah. So it was definitely so overall. Do you think it was a good trilogy, a bad trilogy? Are you glad you watched it? Do you regret
I
watching it?
am. I'm glad I watched it because the payoff with Maxine to me was worth
Hmm.
it. I did like the ending of Maxine where they're already there. The cops are surrounding them and they're saying, "Hey, drop the gun, Maxine. We're here. Like we got this." And she still shoots him, but she makes him say her quote back to
I
like she
know.
makes him say
And
it
she always
together.
said it too
Mm-hmm.
from the
and
beginning.
and I think that was her way of just releasing all of the
Hmm.
emotion she possibly had, and she just let go of it. And I think she almost stopped that cycle of having another Maxine Pearl situation. She was like, "Nope, we're getting rid of you." And then she became a huge star, and you see her filming the next movie. But while she's filming the next movie, she basically just tells them like, "I don't want this ever to end." Basically saying like, "I want to continue people talking about me and seeing me and all of that stuff."
Yeah, and actually, when she was like by the Hollywood sign, with the helicopter and shining the light on there, I I was kind of wondering what direction that they were going to go on because I could see them doing the whole because she was kind of seeing the like the future shots of her doing the
Hmm.
red carpet when Puritan 2 was coming out. Excuse me. And then all of that part, but then I could see her. I could see them doing the whole thing. They're like, oh, she's just imagining it, and then she's pointing this gun at her dad, and then before she shoots, the cops are gonna shoot her, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then she never really gets to like live that life of stardom, or she
Hmm.
does, but only like after death, where she becomes like infamous or whatever.
Hmm.
So I could have seen it going either way, but I'm in a way I'm kind of glad that it did pay off, in the sense that she did like make it big afterwards, and because I feel a lot of times that you need those to pay off for the times that it doesn't pay off in that way to still work. So
See, I
I'm
had
glad that it
another.
did.
I thought that she was not going to shoot him at all, and that they were going to come down and be like, "Oh, we're so glad that you were able to do this and catch him and all." Like, I thought it was going to be where he's still alive, he's going to jail, and she's still alive, and they don't shoot her or do anything, and she still becomes famous that way. But then she actually shot him. I was like, "Oh, okay."
But yeah, and the other thing that made me think that maybe that that future wasn't going to happen was because of the fact that the two detectives died, and pretty much everyone else in that cult also died. So then I was wondering if they were going to think that she was the one that killed everyone, and that she was going to end up in jail or shot or something like that. And that's how she was going to become famous because of that. But it turned out that they, I guess, believed her, and she sold the rights to her life so then they could have a movie about her.
I was surprised that the agent that she had killed the PI. Because she asked him for help, and then before we know it, they're at like the junkyard and he's being crushed to death. I was not expecting that at all. I didn't think that he was going to be the person that helped her kill him.
I know, me neither, because like he's her attorney.
He's a lawyer,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and you just picture, you just imagine people having a moral compass, and then apparently in all these movies, nobody has any morals.
Which leads me to my quiz to you, because I told you I had a game for you to play here. And this is what prompted the game. So she was standing next to him, and this was already a quote that was said before by the PI. And the PI said, "Oh, wow, you're a lot taller than I thought you were." And then the PI is about to get killed, and she's standing next to her attorney, and she's so much taller than him to where I had to look up her height. Do you know how tall Maxine, Mia Goth is? Do you want to
no idea.
Guess out there?
No, because I didn't even picture her being tall, because like
she was taller than the attorney. She was standing next to him, and she was taller much taller
than Giancarlo Esposito. So she's got to be what, like 5'10", 5'11", or she's taller than that?
You're spot on. So most of the websites that I looked into, she's 5'10".
Really?
Some of them said that she was 5'7", but most of them were saying that she was 5'10".
Really? Because
I thought she was small. I thought she was going to be short. She was with Jenny Ortega, and she didn't look much taller than she did, unless they did a really good job with the angles, which then it made me think she was never really in a scene with Jenny Ortega when she wasn't sitting or laying down.
Yeah.
Never standing with her.
Yeah, either way, Jenny Ortega's small. Like, she's known to be, like, short.
And how tall do you think she is? Because I took that down, too.
I'll say she is 5'4".
No.
Is she shorter? 5'2"? No, she's shorter than that? Is she like 5 even?
She is 5. She's 5'1".
Wow.
So she's tiny. Compared to Mia, that's like a huge comparison, but she didn't look much taller than she was.
Yeah. And that's probably why I didn't think that Mia was that tall, because the only time that she was tall, or that I thought of her as tall, is when he mentioned that she was taller than what he imagined. I was like, okay, because in everything else she doesn't seem tall, like the way that they shoot her and
tiny.
all that stuff.
She seemed super tiny compared to, I mean, anyone honestly in the show.
Well, I didn't see her as tiny. I just saw her as average height for a girl.
Well, 5'10", that's average height. But that leads me to Brittany Snow. What do you think your girl Brittany Snow is?
Oh my God, she is 5'7".
This is my favorite pastime. I love
She is
figuring out.
5'7".
She's not.
5'6".
No.
Is she shorter? Really? 5'3"?
No, 5'4". Yeah.
Really? You know what? I think that's a thing, because it's hard to tell people's height in movies. Because at Fan Expo, we met the girl from Fallout, and she was so much shorter than I thought she was going to be.
Well, is she like 5'4", 5'5"? This is
know.
my favorite pastime. I love figuring out their heights.
People's
because when you see them in movies, you think of them like, oh, they're super tall, or oh, they're really small, and then you look it up and it's the complete opposite of what you think.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I guess that's true, because, well, like Tom Cruise, for example, like he's infamously short. But he's what, like 5'5", or something like that.
I think he's like 5'6". I think maybe he's even. Which I just learned the definition of short king is 5'8" or below. So if you're 5'8" or shorter, you are short king.
So every Mexican or every Latino, pretty much, because I think we're all known for not being super tall.
5'7" is Tom Cruise. Yeah.
5'7" or 5'7"?
No, 5'7". 5'7".
I think it's
You
more
don't
like
think he
5'7".
is? I know one of my biggest crushes, well, I have two huge crushes, and it's Zac Efron and Elon Musk. But Zac Efron...
The same guy, pretty much the same people.
Pretty much the same, yeah. No, he's 5'7", yeah. But Zac Efron, too, I think he's like 5'8". They're shorter.
No. Mm-hmm. I feel like Zac Efron's shorter than that. He's shorter than everything.
No. Which brings me to my last height question to you, though.
Okay.
So Mia Goth is in a relationship. Okay, she actually has a spouse. I believe they're spouses. Let me 100% fact check, because it does say spouse on...
She has a partner.
It says spouse on Wiki, but a partner, we'll say, okay. He's someone we all know.
Is their last name Goth?
No, but he's been in a lot of movies.
Is it Skarsgård?
And the one movie, when I tell you this, you're going to know immediately who it is. Holes.
Shia LaBeouf?
Yes.
Really?
How tall do you think he is?
How what?
How tall?
Oh my god. He... Is he 5'8"? Is he shorter than that?
Nope. Remember,
Really?
she's 5'10".
Really? I kind of always saw Shia LaBeouf as short.
5'8", short king status.
Yeah, I guess. Is he... He's what, 5'10"? Is he shorter or taller?
Shorter. He's 5'9", so he just
Yeah.
leaves the cusp of being a short king.
Oh my god. Wow.
This is my greatest pastime. I just love looking up people's heights and just, like, comparing them.
Interesting. Okay, well, it's interesting to see. In high school, I actually did date a girl that was taller than me. I think she was like 5'11" or just under 5.
I was gonna be like, is she 5'9"?
Just under 6 feet. No, she was the volleyball player, but she was like straight up Norwegian. Like her dad was like immigrant from Norway.
So tall.
I'm guessing that kind of influenced
Well,
it.
we all know that you're 5'4" and I'm 6 foot, so
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. We just roll with the punches. I'm Mia's height. You're Tom Cruise's height less. You're the height of Brittany Snow. There you go. Perfect match.
You're Brittany Snow height, and you're Mia Goth height.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There we go. See, look at that.
Yeah. At least I'm not Jenna Ortega height.
Yeah. Well, she's cute though. I do like her in any film that she's been in. I think she does a very, very good job, and she's been in a lot of newer ones. There's one I do want to see from her, and I'm forgetting the name.
Scream?
No, it's I don't even know if it's a newer one. Miller's Girl. I want to see her in that movie. It's like where she gets in a relationship almost with her professor. I do want to see that one. I feel like she is a really good actress, but I do feel like she should be playing roles with what's the guy from Wednesday? The director?
Tim Burton?
Yeah. She's born for those roles. She has
yeah, definitely.
Perfect face. Like, all of it is perfect.
Her demeanor, the type of person she is, everything. I'm actually going to see Beetlejuice this weekend too. So.
Oh man, yeah, that's a good one too.
I'll let you know how it goes, because I'm a pretty big fan of the first one, but I'm a huge fan of Michael Keaton in general. Anyway, and not just because he was Batman, but there's a lot of movies. Multiplicity. Yeah, Mr. Mom.
So now that we've watched all three of these, though, right? Here's my last question to you. Not part of the game or anything.
Is the answer 7?
Yes. Okay, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah. No. So people have been getting upset because this series, it didn't get any I don't think it got any nominations. If it did, then I apologize. But it definitely didn't get voted for any type of best picture or best screenplay, whatever it is.
For the Oscar or what?
So there's only been 2... Yes. So there's only been 2 horror film winners. And those 2 have been Silence of the Lambs as Best Picture. And then the second one was Get Out by Jordan Peele, I believe.
Yeah.
for Best Original Screenplay. Do
Yeah.
you think horror films need to get more recognition, especially
Um,
with this type of trilogy, or do you think that it's on par with other horror films and those two films were just way above the grade of most horror films?
so I don't think that this trilogy or any individual the only thing so I do think that some horror movies definitely need more Oscar recognition.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if I think that any of these three. Um,
Deserved it?
I don't
Or
think
even,
any of them
not
are
even thinking of
justify
the
Oscar
movie.
nomination, except maybe the screenplay, kind of all together. But because they don't really do a trilogy
Hmm.
thing, um, I could see maybe Mia Goth being nominated for Pearl.
Right, yep.
But I think that's the only movie that would have justified any nomination for any type of anything. Maybe costume design. But I think that might be it. Because I think the rest, like I think it's I think for the period that it was made, I think it's a great type of movie for what it is.
Hmm.
But I think like Hereditary, I think in some ways is better. I think Midsummer is
Okay,
better in
yeah.
other ways too. So that but that might also be a style because like I love Florence Pugh in Midsummer. I love what was her name, Chloe Collette or whatever. In Hereditary, it might just be the way that they've done it. And I don't know what other horror movies could kind of fit that type of prestige type of movie. But
Mhm.
it's hard for horror movies to do it. Like the only other ones I could possibly see doing it is maybe like Aliens, like from back in the day,
Yeah,
or
yep.
or those type of like big movies. But like slashers, I don't think are ever going to be
No,
nominated for anything.
wow. You don't think
Uh,
they should even get like a category or anything? You think it's just like
no, I
they
don't.
they
I,
they give a lot of enjoyment, I would say, but I do agree with you in a sense of I don't, not to sound rude towards it, but I don't think that a lot of acting has to come out in horror films because
I,
all you have to do is kind of act terrified. And I get it.
I
It is hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm obviously not an actress or anything like that, but I feel like horror is typically where people either do it for fun or it's one of their first movies where they're getting into it. I think
so
it teaches you a lot, but it doesn't need a lot from you.
I won't say I say it depends on the type of horror movie because each one's different.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
slashers are definitely like the thing I could see for slashers or a lot of scary movies in general or horror movies is like special effects. I think that's
Hmm.
the most practical way for them to be nominated. But also a lot of horror movies tend to be lower budget.
Yeah.
And that's a big draw of horror is that you can make like a really good like Blumhouse is kind of known for this that they'll make a movie for like a couple $1 million and they'll make 100 million and that's why they're so profitable. Like Get
Hmm.
Out, that's a big thing about that is that they really didn't need a big budget to do Get Out. But that was so well acted, so well directed, so well written. And then then you have like Us and like, pretty much any Jordan Peele movie, except
Hmm.
for the Nope. But that one did have more of a budget, more special effects. But I think I think it more of the like thriller type of horror, the more the suspense type have a better
Hmm.
shot
I
at
agree.
being nominated for things, kind of like the Hereditaries, like the Nopes, like the Midsummer, those type of movies that are just kind of different and have like a very original thing, or kind of like the Flanagan shows. Like I thought I think if those were movies that they would have a shot, kind of like the Midnight Mass, and the Hill House, whatever that was called.
Oh, yeah.
I'm seeing,
Yeah.
and those type of movies have a better shot. But I think it's hard for horror movies to be nominated for one Best Picture because a lot of people don't like horror movies, so they're never
Hmm.
going to see them. And two, the type of acting that you have in horror movies is different than It in most horror
Other
movies
movies,
is
yeah.
different than you have in dramas, which is why dramas win so often. Because you also don't see many comedies when like Best Picture, or even like Best Actor or Actress or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. I like to think of acting as like a box of crayons, and I feel like horror films are all of those darker crayons, and then, like you said, comedy is all of those lighter crayons, but then you have dramas or even thrillers, I guess, in a sense, which typically have the whole box where it's difficult to get all of those emotions in one, especially in one actor, but you have those a lot of times in dramas, especially. I feel like action is more based on the CGI or what they're doing in regards to it versus horror, which is kind of just like all those darker colors. It's not too much. It's a
Yeah,
lot, but not too much.
and honestly, actually, I'm gonna backtrack some of what I said because I was thinking about it a little bit more. Because the other type of nominations I could see happen is like those big drastic ones, kind of like Skarsgård and It. I think that could have possibly justify like a like Best Actor nomination or Best Supporting Actor nomination type of thing, because of how different that change was. Because you don't see Skarsgård, you see It, and then also possibly like a Best Director kind of thing, uh, like a Jordan Peele or Flanagan or or Raimi if he ever does something that justifies it or whoever it is. But yeah, I could see something like that. But the okay, I think you're turning me because yeah, I think it just depends on the movie.
I
The
accidentally
more
persuaded you without even trying.
yeah, you did because
I just made you
I
talk about it for a little bit.
yeah because you also kind of have like in Split, like I
Oh, I
totally
loved Split. That was one of
yeah,
my
yeah,
favorite
yeah,
movies of
yeah.
all
Because
time.
that's pretty much like a horror movie, and you totally have James McAvoy. I thought he was brilliant in that. I would have supported a nomination from him.
I think they won a lot of awards, though. Well, I guess they
Yeah,
didn't win an Oscar. Yeah, that's the thing.
yeah, and that's the thing that's a hard part because for Oscars specifically, like it has to be either like a prestige type movie that like that's a goal of the movie, because the best picture movies aren't always really the ones that make the most money. Or else the MCU would have like a billion Oscars, but
Yeah.
they don't. They have
In the
like
Avatar
best special
series.
effects and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. But really, the only Oscars that they won is like best special effects and stuff like that. So
Well, I'm glad I made you change your mind on accident.
yeah. Well,
Not
I just
even
thought about
trying.
it further because it's there's just a lot of horror movies and there's a lot of different types of horror movies that it just but yeah and I will say that's probably like one of the very few genres that's still kind of busting out like original stories of either like that they're putting stuff that you've known for a long time or adapting stuff that's based on real life or just creating brand new stuff like Midsummer and Split stuff like that, or anything Jordan Peele does.
Which is interesting you say because I feel like every movie, you're right, it's just kind of a repetition of a different movie or it's taking on the plot of another movie that we've already seen. So we know
Or it's a
what
sequel
yeah,
or
what's going to
or
happen. Meanwhile,
remake.
with
Yeah.
even with this trilogy, the whole time we're talking about I didn't actually know how she was going to act. I didn't know if she was going to kill that goose. I didn't know if Maxine was going to kill her dad. I didn't know what was going to happen because it was so 50-50 where it did keep me on my toes. And I know we joked about it that I did watch it in 2 times speed, but there were at points where I did just go back to regular speed because I was so just I wanted to think about it for a second. A
I
compliment from me. I went off my 2 times speed for a few minutes.
yeah, yeah, I get it. I still can't imagine. Well, I can and I can't. So I listen to podcasts in 2 times speed. Um, so I get that part, but I can't imagine watching something in 2 times speed, especially
My brain
because like
works fast.
I don't know, but I get that, but I don't know. I feel like to me Especially with like good directors and good filmmakers. I feel like I'm doing a disservice by watching it faster than it should be watched, because I wanna consume everything kind of how they wanted me to
Yeah,
consume it, even though I'm watching it at home and not in the theater.
but sometimes it's get to the point.
Yeah, I get it.
Because you'll
I
watch
think
someone walking for like a minute and you're like, just speed it up, let's go.
maybe it's building up suspense or something.
I don't need to build up suspense. I'm my own I'm always stressed out anyway, so it's fine. I don't need to build the stress. It's there.
We're just always stressed.
I'm
Kind of like the
always
Hulk.
stressed out,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm always angry, but you're always stressed.
I'm always stressed. My anxiety always through the roof.
I get that.
Honestly, though, great trilogy. I'm glad you recommended it, and I'm glad that we got to watch it. I think I liked it the way that I watched it. It made a little bit more sense to me, but I think the way you watched it was probably the way that it was meant to be watched.
I don't know. I think it could have been watched either way. I think either I like the fact that I saw X, and then because a lot of it was kind of a surprise, and kind of seeing the old lady being all crazy, and then finding out why is she all crazy. But if you watch Pearl first, X in some ways makes more sense, because then you're like already anticipating this, and you just wonder like, how is this going to happen, and how's it going to happen now that she's old, and what's the husband going to do, since you pretty much missed all of them in Pearl. So
And then with Maxine, when I watched it the way that I did, I thought Maxine was going to end up being like Pearl. Because that's the way that it had been set up. So all of which maybe is why I enjoyed Maxine more than the other ones, because to me, Maxine was going to follow the same footsteps that Pearl did. So
I could have
that's
seen
the
that happen
idea
that
that
way.
I had in mind. So whatever decision Maxine was making was a surprise to me, versus X, I kind of knew what was going on until I figured out, oh, the husband isn't there just for cleanup. He's also killing people. But then Maxine, complete surprise to me. I had no idea what to expect.
Okay, yeah, I could see that, but yeah, because I saw Maxine as a sequel to X, because I saw X as kind of like the original, and then I saw the prequel, and then I saw the sequel. So, but yeah, if you saw Pearl first, then you kind of see X as the sequel, and then Maxine as the third in the series.
Yeah.
So it definitely puts it in a different perspective if you watch it in that order. So how would you suggest people watch them? In what order?
I didn't watch it in your order though, so I don't know what makes I like the way that I watched it, but I'm sure you like the way that you watched it too.
I do, especially because X was the transition between Pearl and Maxine.
The two, yeah. But I like it the way that I watched it because I saw Pearl, I saw the transition, and then I saw Maxine.
Yeah.
So either or, I guess, works. Just don't watch Maxine first, or you'll be confused. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, even though you probably heard all the spoilers now anyway, and know why everything happened. So if you haven't seen it, then
well, we didn't give too many away. You know, there are a lot of deaths and kind of what happens, but the way that it's portrayed is a lot different than what we can probably even explain.
Yeah, definitely. But I like the trilogy. I thought it was good, and I think that I can't even really compare it to anything else.
No. I mean, X was a little bit more of a slasher movie, so you can kind of compare it to other films, but then Pearl to Maxine, very unique storylines.
I think the fact that it was a trilogy, and the way that the fact that it was kind of put together this way, like nothing else was like that. No Jason movies, no Halloween movies, no any other slasher movies.
And I like how Mia played for all three of those. I think that was a good way of bringing more into the movies. It's the same person, but she's so different in all three of them.
I agree. Yeah, and yeah, I think I don't know if anyone else could have done the job that she did.
No, I don't think so. I haven't even heard of her until these movies, and
me neither.
I think she's an amazing actress just based off of these three. I hope she gets more roles. Honestly, I would love to see her in more movies.
Yeah, after this, I think she probably will, because she's obviously good.
I think she was cast in some type of Disney movie. Not like
Disney one?
Disney, like like Marvel Disney type.
Oh, okay, like Disney adjacent, since
Yes,
Disney
yeah,
owns
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yep.
Maybe, very possible. But
But she deserves it. She's good.
Yeah, I like her.
Oh, Blade. That's what she's gonna be in.
Blade,
Blade.
if that ever comes out.
If it ever comes out.
Yeah, but okay, well.
Good movie though. Do recommend. I hope
Yeah.
Carlos isn't too mad about our episode.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out next week. Or if he ever returns.
Yeah. Or if we ever return after this, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I guess that's also a possibility.
Alright, well, bye.
All right, toodles.